Hi, I'm Deanna, Director of the Arts Collab here in Birmingham. Thanks so much for joining us in celebration of the 6th grade students at Bush Hill STEAM Academy's work. At the Arts Collab, our mission is to empower our community to increase access to arts education. And we're so pleased to be a partner for the 3rd year in a row for the Green Book Project, a collaboration among the Jefferson County Memorial Project, Bush Hill STEAM Academy, and the Alabama State Council on the Arts. This project is all about exploring the tenets of perspective, advocacy, self-advocacy, and empathy. Over the entire semester, teaching artist Jahman has been working along with classroom teachers Mr. Fields and Mr. Worley to help students conduct research on Birmingham's key civil rights sites and people. And that research inspired the performances you're about to hear. I want to say a huge thank you to the Bush Hill STEAM Academy and community for prioritizing the arts and working with community partners. We know that students thrive when schools, the arts, and community come together. The arts are proven to not only benefit students artistically and creatively, but also academically and emotionally. And we hope to see many more partnerships like this in the future. Again, a huge congratulations to all of the students who are performing, and thank you to the teachers and partners for making this work possible.
My name is Kameryn Thigpen, and I am a 2019 Fellow of the Jefferson County Memorial Project. The Modern Green Book was established in 1936 by Victor Hugo Green and offered resources for travel for Black people all across the country to be free from violence. Right now, I'm standing in front of the A.G. Gadsden Motel, which is an example of one of the resources in the Modern Green Book. The Modern Green Book highlighted thousands of Black-owned businesses, such as hotels, motels, drugstores, convenience stores, and even service stations. Although it was not the only resource guide for Black travelers during this time, it was the most popular and sold over 15,000 copies a year and became international. In the 1960s, the Modern Green Book began to advocate for public accommodations and equal accommodations for Black Americans. After the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Modern Green Book quietly ceased publication.
Hello, my name is Jahman Hill. I'm the teaching artist working with Arts Collab and the Bush Hill STEAM Academy on this Green Book project with JCMP. So far, this process has been incredible. I've been able to work with students in creating 2 different poems. The first poem is group pieces. They were working together to talk about traveling using the Green Book. They all got to pick a city and create a group piece where they just kind of talked about the different places that they would go and visit. The second poem that they created was a persona poem, and they got to pick either the A.G. Gadsden Motel or the Green Book. They did research on these 2 different things and used the research and the facts that they were able to accrue to create a poem where they tried to utilize this idea of empathy and trying to understand like what it would feel like to be the Green Book or to be the A.G. Gadsden Motel. It was a lot of fun to work with the students, especially when it came to doing like the group pieces. They actually, some of them turned each piece that they did into a group piece. So we got to see the way that the kids worked together to create something and to really focus on how they could utilize the history in these conversations. So students were able to talk about what safety meant to them. Students were able to talk about what it means to travel and places that they would like to go and different cities that they would like to see, all with this underlying idea of safety. And how do we establish that? How do we empathize with others? How do we create spaces where we feel comfortable sharing? I think the biggest thing that I saw in terms of their writing and how their writing grew was we started with a couple of building blocks for poetry. So we talked about rhyme, imagery, metaphor, and simile, and started with those, the rims. And like through starting with those, we were able to see how they could utilize those and manipulate those to create their own work. So some students, they started off, they came in like, oh yeah, I can rap, I got bars, da 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 da. And it's like, okay, how do we use those then to build substance? So it's like, okay, I understand that you can rhyme, and how can you use that to tell a story? Or I understand that you're really good at drawing and creating, so how can you use imagery in both poetry and also in building your green book cover? Like, how can you use the tool imagery to help you out? Or how do we recognize, see metaphor and simile, and then create our own? How do we see that used in music, and how can we apply that to what we're doing? So I really saw the students be able to take that idea of first like remembering, then they were able to understand, then we were able to apply it. We kind of moved up, Bloom's taxonomy. We moved up each step of that pyramid to the point where they're able to create now really regularly. Each day they're working on making their poems better, making their performances better. So the students did two major types of poems. The first is a persona poem. Every student worked on a persona poem individually. And these persona poems, the idea is to create a role or character. So the role or character that you'll see the students assuming in these videos is either the A.G. Gaston Motel or the Green Book. So a student won't say the A.G. Gaston Motel was built in 1954. They might say something like, I was born in 1954. So the idea is that we allow them to place themselves in the shoes of that building and use that to talk about the history. The second poem that they did is a group piece, and group pieces, you'll see they follow a lot of different patterns. So we didn't limit them to one type of poem for the group piece, but the idea is they write the piece together, or one person writes it and they perform the piece together. So you'll see we have about 4 or 5 group pieces that you'll see. Some of them, one person wrote and they all practiced together and performing it as a group. Other ones, they all work together as a group and one person performs it. Or in some of them, they all work together to write it and perform it. So you'll see a few different varieties of how they do group pieces talking about the Green Book and the A.G. Gaston Motel. Working with the teachers, especially in this environment coming right off of the pandemic, like, it has been incredibly stressful and difficult for teachers and administration. And every single week, there was a new challenge. But one of the things with working with the teachers at Bush Hills is, while I was in Mr. Fields' classroom, I was not just working with Mr. Fields. Like, every single teacher on the 6th grade hall helped to make the experience something that could last, because there were some days where we couldn't switch classes. So all the teachers let me into their classroom to teach the students the lesson for the day. Or there were some times where students would end up in different classes because of teacher situations. So the teachers were always flexible, were always lenient, were always willing to work with me in terms of like how they handle student behavior and how I do, and how we can work together to build a good environment for the students, so that they knew that when I was here, when Mr. Hill was in the building and working with the students, that although I might have did some things differently, we all understood that we can work together to make that a good environment for the students, where they feel like they're getting some semblance of consistency and some semblance of growth. So I feel like the teachers helped me interact with the students better, and in some ways I was able to help the teachers interact with the students better as well.
My name is Gregory Fields, and I'm a 6th grade social studies here at Bush Hills STEAM Academy. The Green Book Project has been a part of this school for the last 3 years now. The first class are 8th graders here. It has always been a positive, it has always made a positive effect on the kids, the school, and the community. The kids have learned a lot about local history involving the A.G. Gaston Motel and the Green Book, its relationship to the state of Alabama. They said, well, you know, Mr. Fields, we pass that area all the time. We had no clue about that building or what went on in that particular area. And it's right here in our city. We had no clue about what happened during that particular time. As far as the Green Book is concerned, when we discussed the Civil War and we discussed the advancement in technology and the assembly line, and that most people moved from the South to the North. And when they was able to find jobs in the North, they purchased cars. African American in particular started traveling more. But they failed to realize that as they was traveling from different places to places, that they was not able to live, stay at certain hotels, eat at certain restaurants, buy gas at certain places. So the Green Book really opens up their minds about how things were in the past. Mr. Hill enters the class and teaches the kids different strategies of writing, different types of writing, and he also helps the kids to understand their way of thinking when it comes to expressing themselves, when it comes to information about history. The Green Book has opened up the kids' mind about past history. This is a new generation. Of course, they have no clue about what happened in the past. So the Green Books give them information and knowledge about history and what happened years ago here in the city, the United States, and all over the world. And the kids are able to take this information, do analogies, do critical thinking, work together in groups, expressing their ideals, interacting, and then reporting their findings and discussing different information concerning the Green Book.
And one of my favorite things about teaching is collaborating with other individuals either interested in education or creative ways to interact with students and inspire students. So this project has been a great fit because every year I try to do something new with my students, and I think it's also important for our students to see us engaging with our larger community and more importantly, especially in the arts, our creative community. We've been really fortunate to have them come in and work with our students here at Bush Hill STEAM Academy, and seeing the energy, the excitement in our students while working with Mr. Hill and seeing him interact with the students and pulling that creative energy and that spirit that is inside each and every student. It's been a great pleasure for me as an art educator and a teacher. I'm a visual art educator, but I started with a performing art background. I grew up in theater and theatrical arts. And then in college, I got into music and played for about 15, 20 years with live music. So I really am inspired by seeing how visual arts, performing arts, and just the different disciplines can work together. We're working with the Green Book Project, and the students are learning about the history of the Green Books, and then recreating their own covers and putting their own spin on it. So understanding why the Green Book was a necessity and why it existed. And then I think that students creating their own artwork is a great way for them to really connect with what the Green Book means and what it meant for people that needed that to be able to travel safely. And as a father of 4 kids, to me, it hit really hard. It hit home for me, like just trying to imagine the need for a book to help me travel safely with my family from place to place. So I tried to make sure they treated it with the respect that a project like this deserves. So for Mr. Hill to come into the school and for us to work together and the students to see that, I think that brings a different type of energy than us being isolated and working with our students. And it gives them skills and techniques that they can go on and build relationships with in the future. I would just like to say, thanks, of course, to Mr. Hill and all the organizations and people that came to help collaborate on this project for Bush Hill STEAM Academy. I know it's been an inspiration for our students, and it's also been a lot of fun and brought a different energy and level of creativity to our school.